A warning that a large share of Brisbane's future apartment projects may never get built, a massive new Amazon fulfillment centre worth around $750 million planned for Logan, and a Supreme Court ruling that could affect how councils deal with homelessness in public parks. Adam here with the weekly Greater Brisbane update, where we take a look at some of the biggest things happening across Brisbane, Ipswich, Logan, Moreton Bay and the Redlands. This video is sponsored by Get Car Tech and YB Painting, and both of these exceptional local businesses have a special offer for viewers of the Brisbane Channel. But for now, let's get updated. A new industry analysis is raising questions about whether Brisbane will be able to deliver the number of apartments needed to keep up with population growth. According to research from property consultancy Urbis, around 35% of future apartment developments planned for inner Brisbane beyond 2027 are considered to be at moderate to high risk of not proceeding within their current timeframe. The main reason is that construction costs have surged over the past few years, and developers say the numbers on many projects simply don't stack up at the moment. Industry groups say rising labour costs, ongoing shortages of trades, and the difficulty of locking in builders are all contributing to the problem. At the same time, apartment construction in Brisbane is still well below the levels seen before the pandemic. Around 2,550 apartments were completed in inner Brisbane last year, and around 3,000 are expected this year, but that's still far below the roughly 9,000 apartments per year that were being delivered during the peak construction period in 2016 and 2017. Researchers say the situation is creating a potential gap between the number of homes Brisbane is expected to need and the number that may actually get built. Under the South East Queensland Regional Plan, Brisbane needs to deliver around 8,000 attached dwellings per year through to 2031 to keep up with population growth. As I've mentioned in previous updates, some developers are arguing that one way to make projects viable again would be allowing taller buildings in certain areas, particularly near transport and activity centres. Others are calling for policy changes such as incentives for off-the-plan buyers or reductions in development charges to help projects proceed. It's a complex issue, and one that ties directly into the ongoing conversation around housing affordability across the region. And that affordability conversation is also being reflected in the latest property market figures. Recent data shows Brisbane's median house price has now reached around $1.2 million. That milestone has been reached surprisingly quickly. Only a few years ago, Brisbane was widely seen as the more affordable alternative to Sydney and Melbourne. But strong interstate migration, population growth across southeast Queensland, and limited housing supply have all contributed to prices pushing higher. Some agents say demand has become so competitive in certain parts of the city that buyers are even competing heavily for properties that require major renovation work. It's another indicator of just how tight the housing market has become across the region. And while there are questions about the feasibility of building new apartments, demand for the ones that do reach the market remains very strong. Some recent auctions for inner city units have reportedly attracted more than 30 registered bidders. That's another sign that population growth, investor interest, and downsizers looking for lower maintenance homes are all competing for a relatively limited supply of apartments. Taken together, the construction feasibility concerns and the strong demand suggest that housing availability will remain a major topic across Greater Brisbane in the years to come. Another factor shaping Brisbane's housing supply is the type of apartments actually being built. A recent analysis has found that many of the new apartment developments reaching the market are aimed at the luxury end. Developers say rising construction costs and labour shortages mean cheaper apartment projects often struggle to stack up financially. That means many new buildings include premium features like pools, gyms, and other amenities, which can also increase body corporate costs for residents. Economists say this dynamic helps explain why Brisbane can simultaneously face a housing shortage while still seeing new developments aimed largely at higher income buyers. I'll be doing a My 2 Cents video on this topic a few days from now, so keep your eye out for that on the Brisbane Channel. Another indicator of how strong housing demand remains across southeast Queensland can be seen in the latest land valuations released this week. Both Ipswich and Redlands City have reported significant increases in land values following their latest revaluations, reflecting the strong population growth and demand for housing across the region. Valuations like these don't necessarily mean property owners will see immediate changes to their rates, but they do provide a useful snapshot of how demand for land is shifting. Taken together, the figures highlight the continued pressure on housing across Greater Brisbane as the region continues to grow. But it's not just housing that's feeling the impact of our growing population. With our cities growing faster than ever, driving around Brisbane has definitely gotten harder. Channel sponsor Get Car Tech can upgrade your car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto functionality. They specialize in custom vehicle-specific CarPlay solutions, so everything looks factory-fitted and works seamlessly. Conveniently located in Tingalpa and backed by a 5-star Google rating, they'll match the right system to your car and your needs. Prices start from just $590 fully installed. Mention the Brisbane Channel for $100 off any of their services. Scan the QR code on screen now to get a quote for your vehicle or visit www.getcartech.com. Another issue drawing attention across Greater Brisbane recently is the growing crackdown on the illicit tobacco trade. Authorities have been targeting a number of illegal tobacco stores across Brisbane and southeast Queensland, with enforcement operations leading to shop closures and large seizures of untaxed cigarettes, vaping products and cash. Police and health authorities say organised criminal networks have increasingly become involved in the trade, often using small retail outlets to distribute tobacco products at prices far below what licensed retailers are legally allowed to charge. Reports this week suggest some operators have even begun purchasing entire buildings in order to try to avoid enforcement laws that allow the government to shut down premises used for illegal tobacco sales. Part of the challenge authorities face is the scale of the illicit market itself. Estimates vary quite significantly depending on how it's measured. Government modelling suggests illegal tobacco accounts for roughly 1 in 5 cigarette sales nationally, but some independent and industry commission studies suggest the share could be much higher, with estimates ranging from around 40% to more than half of all tobacco consumed in Australia. One of the key drivers is price. A legal pack of cigarettes in Australia can now cost more than $40 after taxes, while illicit packs are sometimes sold for around $10 to $15. Authorities say that price gap has made illegal tobacco increasingly attractive for both organised crime groups and the price-sensitive consumers. Police say the trade has also been linked to a number of violent incidents. In Queensland alone, investigators have linked around a dozen arson attacks in the past year to disputes connected with the illicit tobacco market. Because of those links to organised crime, tackling the illicit tobacco trade has become a major enforcement priority. Queensland authorities say tens of millions of illegal cigarettes, along with large quantities of vapes and loose tobacco, have already been seized as part of the state's crackdown on the trade. In aviation news, Brisbane Airport is set to gain more international connectivity. China Eastern Airlines has announced it will move to daily year-round flights between Brisbane and Shanghai. Previously, the airline has operated seasonal services on the route, but the shift to a permanent daily schedule reflects growing demand for travel between Queensland and China. The change is expected to boost tourism, student travel, and business links between the two regions. Before we get to more controversial updates, a quick shout out to the other sponsor of this video, YB Painting Services. They recently won 2 first and 3 second place awards in the Master Painters Australia Queensland Awards for 2025, and when you see their professionalism and the quality of their workmanship, it's no surprise. With fixed pricing and a 5-year warranty on all their work, you can be sure there'll be no unpleasant surprises. Claim your 10% discount by scanning this QR code or the link in the video description. In state politics this week, the Queensland Parliament has launched the Local Government Empowering Councils and Other Legislation Amendment Bill. The state government says the changes are intended to streamline council processes, reduce red tape, and clarify governance arrangements for local governments across the state. Among the changes are updates to councillor conflict of interest rules, adjustments to councillor conduct processes, and provisions aimed at strengthening the role of mayors as the public voice of their councils. Supporters say the reforms improve governance, while critics argue they could reduce transparency. The legislation has prompted some criticism from opposition councillors in Brisbane City Council. They argue that some of the changes could limit access to certain council information and documents, particularly where decisions are discussed outside formal council meetings. I'll go into that issue in more detail in the Brisbane update. There has also been an unusual political alliance forming around gambling advertising in Queensland. The Australian Christian Lobby has lodged an e-petition calling for gambling advertisements to be removed from government-owned infrastructure, and the petition is being sponsored by Greens MP Michael Berkman. Advocates say the aim is to reduce exposure to gambling advertising in public spaces, particularly for children and young people. According to figures from the Queensland Government Statistician's Office, Queenslanders lost about $6.53 billion to gambling in the 2023-24 financial year. The petition is calling for a review of government advertising policies and harm minimisation approaches. There's also a major review underway that could reshape the political map across Queensland, including parts of Greater Brisbane. The Queensland Redistribution Commission has released proposed new boundaries for state electorates. Redistributions happen periodically to make sure each electorate represents roughly the same number of voters as populations grow and shift. One of the most significant proposed changes affects Brisbane itself. The electorate of Stretton, which covers parts of Brisbane South, has been recommended for abolition under the draft plan. As a result, voters currently in that electorate would be redistributed across neighbouring seats. The proposal reflects a broader population trend across Queensland. While southeast Queensland continues to grow rapidly, some regional areas have seen slower population growth, which means electorates there can become relatively smaller over time. In practical terms, that usually means some electorates disappear, new ones are created, and many others have their boundaries adjusted. The draft proposal also suggests renaming several electorates, including a number in Greater Brisbane, which is something the Commission sometimes does when boundaries shift significantly or when it wants electorate names to better reflect local geography. The new boundaries are not final yet. They've been released for public consultation, and residents, councils, and political parties can all provide feedback before the final map is determined. Once the redistribution is finalised, the new boundaries would apply at the next Queensland state election. On a very different note, researchers in Brisbane are looking for volunteers to take part in what is being described as a world-first mosquito monitoring project. The study is being run through Metro South Health and aims to better understand how mosquitoes spread diseases such as dengue and Ross River viruses. Participants will act as citizen scientists by helping researchers track mosquito populations in different parts of the region. The information collected could help improve disease monitoring and mosquito management strategies in the future. And many Queenslanders were saddened this week by the news that Jamie Dunn has passed away at the age of 76. Dunn was best known as the creator and voice of Agro, the puppet character who became a household name on Australian children's television in the 1980s and 90s. Agro was the kind of character you'd probably never see on screen these days, as Dunn liked to push boundaries and was anything but politically correct or age-appropriate.
That's how they look.
I've never seen a pussy with ears and a tail before.
Dad, look,
Actually,
what? What were you going to say then?
Oh, there it is.
Let me look. There, that's much nicer. That's the face. Now, Chloe's actually a Burmese cat. Now,
bit of a show-off, too, I reckon.
She is. She's a bit of a show-off.
She's been pushing that thing in my face ever since she got here.
Well, she doesn't.
I think she wants it.
She doesn't mean to push that into your face. It's just that...
I think she wants it, Timmy.
No, look, you can't... there are thousands of people listening out there, millions of people listening out there, and you can't say that sort of thing. Look, it's not her fault. She's just trying to be friendly.
Yeah, I can tell.
Agro's Cartoon Connection was produced at Brisbane's Channel 7 studios and became one of the most popular children's programs in the country during its run. For many Queenslanders and Australians, it's a show that remains closely tied to childhood memories of television growing up. Now let's take a quick look at what's been happening across the individual Greater Brisbane LGAs this week. In Ipswich, the City Council has rejected a request from a waste operator at Swanbank to extend open composting operations while a new enclosed processing facility is built. The decision comes after years of complaints from nearby residents about odour issues associated with the site. I'll go through what Council decided and what it means for the project in the Ipswich update. In Logan, a massive new investment has been announced with Amazon set to build a $750 million fulfillment centre at Greater Flagstone. The facility will form part of the rapidly growing logistics hub in the area and is expected to create around 1,000 ongoing jobs once operational. I'll unpack the details of that project in the Logan update. In Moreton Bay, a Supreme Court ruling has found the council breached the Human Rights Act when removing homeless campers from a public park. Council says it is reviewing the decision, but believes the ruling does not invalidate its local laws around camping on public land. I'll explain what the court decided and what it could mean going forward in the Moreton Bay update. In Brisbane itself, newly updated flood mapping is identifying thousands more properties that could potentially face flooding risks, while we're also seeing a surge in homeowners looking at flood resilience upgrades. I'll go through what the maps show in the Brisbane update. And in the Redlands, growth pressures on the southern Moreton Bay Islands are once again raising questions about infrastructure, housing demand, and the potential cost of expanding services such as sewerage. I'll walk through the latest developments in the Redlands update. And if you'd like to stay up to date with what's happening across Greater Brisbane without the spin, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Here's a few of some of the more local updates from this week, along with the full series if you want to be up to date with everything. See you there.